On the morning of April 18th, 1943, 18 American pilots sat silently on Henderson Field, Guadalcanal, waiting for orders they weren't allowed to discuss. No one knew the target. No one knew where they were going. All they had been told was that this mission came directly from the highest level of the U.S. government. What they didn't know, yet, was that they had been chosen for one of the most daring, precise, and dangerous intercepts in aviation history, an operation so secret that the pilots wouldn't learn the full truth until after they returned, if they returned at all. The target was Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, commander of the Imperial Japanese Navy, architect of Pearl Harbor, and the most respected military mind in Japan. Killing him would shatter Japanese morale. Missing him would strengthen it. And failure was not an option, but hitting him seemed impossible. Yamamoto was heavily protected, constantly guarded, and always on the move. His flight path was secret. His escort fighters were the best Japan had. And he would be traveling deep within Japanese territory, hundreds of miles from the nearest American base. There was only one American aircraft that could reach him, only one that had the range, the speed, and the climb capability to pull off a mission this extreme: the Lockheed P-38 Lightning. Twin engines, long legs, heavy firepower, a fighter unlike anything else in the war. And on this day, it would be asked to perform something no fighter squadron had ever attempted: fly hundreds of miles at treetop level, undetected, hit a target at the exact minute he arrived, and shoot him down before his escorts could react. The mission started with a message decoded by U.S. naval intelligence. Japanese cryptographers had changed their codes, confident their communications were secure. But American codebreakers cracked the new system within days, and then came the breakthrough, the message that changed the war. Yamamoto was planning an inspection tour of frontline bases in the Solomons. He would be flying in a Mitsubishi G4M Betty bomber, escorted by Zero fighters. His departure time, route, altitude, and arrival time were all included in the transmission. No military leader in history had ever been so exposed. The question was simple: could the Americans reach him? The numbers were terrifying. The mission would require a 600-mile round trip. No navigation beacons, no landmarks, no weather reports. The P-38s would need to fly low, just 50 feet above the ocean, to avoid Japanese radar, and they would need to hit the interception point within a window of a few minutes. Miss the timing, and Yamamoto would slip past. Fly too high, and they would be detected. Fly too low, and one mistake would send them into the water. The pilots were told that if any of them were forced to land or crash in enemy territory, the United States would deny the mission existed. There would be no rescue. The room fell silent, but none of them backed down. Major John Mitchell would lead the strike group, 16 P-38s, 4 assigned to attack the bombers, the rest to deal with the escorts. Among the pilots was Rex T. Barber, a young aviator with a calm demeanor and sharp instincts. He didn't know it yet, but history would soon write his name beside Yamamoto's. The P-38s took off at 7 a.m., fully loaded, near their maximum range. The aircraft strained under the weight of extra fuel tanks. One rough takeoff, one mechanical issue, and the entire mission could fail. But every lightning made it airborne. They dropped to 50 feet above the waves, flying in complete radio silence. If a Japanese scout plane spotted them, the mission was over. If the formation broke apart, they would never find the interception point. The ocean passed beneath them like a mirror. Palm trees blurred as they skimmed over small islands. Pilots wiped sweat from their eyes, fighting fatigue and tension. For 2 hours and 20 minutes, they flew like ghosts. And then, exactly at 9:34 a.m., Rex Barber saw them. 2 Betty bombers, 6 Zeros, exactly where the decoded message said they would be. The mission was still alive. The Japanese formation was right on schedule, flying just a few thousand feet above the jungle canopy. Yamamoto's Betty bomber led the group, its navigation lights on. He believed the area was secure. Behind it, another bomber carried members of his staff. The Zero escort flew a loose formation, confident no American fighters could possibly be this deep in Japanese-controlled territory. They were wrong. Major Mitchell rolled his P-38 upward, signaling the attack. The 4 designated interceptors broke away: Barber, Besby Holmes, and 2 others. The remaining Lightnings climbed to engage the Zeros. Barber and Holmes pushed their throttles forward, engines roaring. They began a shallow climb, aiming directly for the leading Betty bomber. Japanese lookouts spotted the shimmering shapes too late. The Americans had approached from below, hidden by the haze and the sun's angle. The Zeros scrambled, but they were seconds behind the rhythm of the attack. Barber lined up his shot. The twin 20-millimeter cannons and 4.50 caliber machine guns in the P-38's nose gave him an advantage no other American fighter had. Pinpoint accuracy. No wing convergence, no bullet spread. One concentrated stream of fire. He squeezed the trigger. Tracer rounds tore into the Betty's right engine. Flames erupted from the cowling. The bomber dipped, trying to evade, but the P-38 stayed glued to its tail. Barber fired again, this time hitting the cockpit. The Betty rolled violently and plunged into the jungle below. Inside that aircraft was Admiral Yamamoto. Holmes, meanwhile, targeted the second bomber. His guns jammed almost immediately, a mechanical failure he couldn't fix in time. But Barber noticed the second Betty turning away, trying to escape. He broke off his attack and swung toward it. Zeros closed in behind him, but the escorting Lightnings kept them busy. Barber fired into the second bomber at close range. The Betty caught fire, smoke billowing behind it. It managed to stay in the air for a moment longer before crashing into the trees. Both Japanese bombers were down. The mission objective was complete, but the American fighters were not out of danger. The Zeros were furious and coming in fast. A chaotic dogfight erupted over the treetops. The P-38s weren't designed for tight-turning combat, but they used their speed and dive advantage perfectly. Hit, climb, escape. One Lightning took damage, another lost an engine, but the formation stayed intact. Mitchell gave the signal to break off. The P-38s turned south, heading back toward Guadalcanal. They were low on fuel, exhausted, and still over enemy territory. Every mile home felt like a victory and a risk. One Lightning ran out of fuel and ditched at sea. The pilot was rescued later. The rest made it back to base, landing on Henderson Field with tanks nearly dry. The mission had lasted over 5 hours. It had required perfect navigation, perfect timing, and perfect execution, and it succeeded with astonishing precision. Only then were the pilots told the truth. They had killed Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the most important military leader in Japan, the architect of Pearl Harbor, the strategist behind the early Pacific victories. His death shocked the Japanese government. It devastated morale within the Imperial Navy. Officers described it as a wound from which the Navy never recovered. Japan tried to hide the news, but the impact was immediate. Operations slowed, planning faltered. Yamamoto's clarity, discipline, and strategic vision could not be replaced. The man who had held the Navy together since 1941 was gone, and he had been taken down by a group of young pilots flying deep into enemy territory in a mission so audacious that even Hollywood wouldn't have written it. The P-38 Lightning proved itself that day, not just as a fighter, but as a long-range precision weapon. Its range, speed, firepower, and twin-engine reliability made the mission possible. No other Allied fighter in 1943 could have done it. Not the Mustang, not the Thunderbolt, not the Wildcat. Only the Lightning had the right mix of qualities to reach Yamamoto, intercept him, and survive the return trip. Rex T. Barber would go on to fly many more missions, but none ever matched the intensity or the historical importance of that morning over Bougainville. Decades later, historians would review documents, gun camera footage, and combat reports. Most agreed that Barber delivered the fatal shots. The credit dispute lasted years, but the outcome never changed. Yamamoto died on April 18, 1943. The balance of power in the Pacific began to shift soon after, and a group of American pilots proved that even the most guarded man in the Japanese Empire was not beyond reach. It was the most precise aerial assassination of World War II, a mission impossible, made possible by the P-38 Lightning.